Okay, and we are live. I'm gonna fiddle around with a few of these windows first, and we should be good to go. I'm probably not going to be using this brush. I'm going to be working on a brush later, and I will just upload that when it's done. But I want to quickly explain what we are doing here and invite you all to make your own art while doing this, whether it's something similar or whatever it is, your own creative project. This live stream will not be recorded, so this will be available later, maybe. Let's see how this goes. But I'm not going to be making a video out of this painting, I'm just going to be painting. And hey, Daniel Nordström. I just uploaded this to the membership downloads. It's a texture of gouache paint. And I will be using this as a base for the painting. I made this as a tiling texture, so when you duplicate it and align it with any of its edges, it will perfectly tile. So no matter what the resolution of your canvas is, the resolution of this texture will be enough. And it just gives me a nice gritty texture to start with. This is actually 4 different paintings, all on top of each other in this paint mess, and this is what I will be using as a base. Now I'm gonna explain the other things that I uploaded to the membership downloads. This is a SketchUp line art template for a house, and I made this like super generic on purpose. So if anybody out there wants to use this exact same thing for whatever you are doing, go right ahead. I mean, like, this is obviously not art. This is just a box that you can freely imagine anything on. But I thought that it would be fun to kind of combine this kind of chaotic painting that we have been doing in the membership when we have been doing these abstract landscape paintings, and combine that with something kind of like more structured to bring the two worlds together as we are wrapping up this portion of the art assignment for this month. And this is the same 3D model, but with a shading layer. So I added the yellow just so that this would be easy to use with automatic selection. So I'm gonna automatically select all of the yellow and then invert this selection and copy and paste only these shadow areas on their own layer. And then I'm just gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna have this as a multiply layer, and then add a clipping mask to it and just slap one of these blue colors that I have on screen as a hue. Color. So this is a color clipping mask on top of it. And now for this line element, I'm just gonna switch this to multiply. Both of these layers are going to be like useless, but I'm just gonna use this as a starting point to kind of like see some sort of order in this chaos. And without further ado, let's start painting. I think I'm gonna use Oil on Board from Best of Angry Mikko brush set collection. And then just start slapping on some paint. I also have some palettes. It says check saturation, as I haven't checked this palette for saturation yet. I have ordered the swatches correctly, but it's just whatever. I will look into it. And now we can use all of those techniques that we have done in the previous sessions, but also you can make this as much of a representative illustration of a house if you want. The 3D model is kind of garbage, so I thought that maybe I would have time to give different views as options, but it only really looks good from this one viewpoint. Seran SX is there in the chat as well. I thought that I would have a membership stream today because I have a schedule for them, but it turns out that's on Wednesday, and I had this whole situation prepared and everything, and I was really excited to get started because I had prepared all of the live lesson notes and everything for it. But then I was kind of disappointed to notice that I had checked the schedule wrong, and it's actually on Wednesday. So I thought, let's just do another live stream and have a different topic for it. I will still do the Wednesday live stream about painting multiple pieces at once, and I will have those elements that I have prepared for it there on Wednesday. But this is just something extra. I had already planned this like entire month of a different type of content for this art assignment, but I just wanted to do one more. And one thing that I want to ask everybody in the chat is if there is any art assignment suggestions that you have, please leave them in the chat. Because I thought that for the next art assignment, I could do a poll of some kind. I could do that as a post, or I don't know. Because one thought for me is that I will be doing the next art assignment also as a video based on those topics, because it will be like a subject-based art assignment. And I thought it would be fun to let you guys decide what that topic is. Or if nobody has any suggestions, I will just suggest something and have you guys decide. One thing that I kind of would like to do is a coffee or tea shop. But that could be just like one of those ideas. I realized that like I could have a topic that I am super excited about, but if nobody else cares at all about it, then it doesn't really make sense, does it? I love this track. Daniel Nordström is saying, I'm new to art and I find your painting style and color work to be very inspiring. It doesn't matter when you start art, the most important part is that you started. And I guess this is going to be a very difficult live stream for a beginner to follow, because the entire theme for this art assignment this month has been abstract landscape painting, and a big part of that is just like letting accidents happen and let the painting kind of like take you where it takes you. So here we are not trying to control the entire scene. We are just letting random accidents also play out and just let the painting evolve on its own. We are just guiding it. Sure, we have those initial building blocks in the 3D model this time, but this is just like one way to understand how this technique can be combined with other techniques and how you can make your normal paintings look more loose and expressive. I think that's important as well. I see a lot of artists who do very different style than I do, and some say that like I wish that I could do that sort of like sketchy, loose painterly style that you do, but every time I try, it's just I end up back in my old ways of just like trying to polish everything. And to that, I would say that like go like really overboard. Let yourself just completely fail. Because I've been doing this for some time. So of course I have developed some like ways to cope with the chaos, and I have some best known ways to kind of try to fix impossible looking situations. I think that should be expected. But you can't get there by just like slowly dipping your toe into the chaos. You kind of have to plunge yourself straight in there. The reason why I'm giving this multiply layer a Gaussian blur is because I am dropping it on this base layer so that it's easier for me to color pick stuff, and I don't want any of the anti-aliased jagged edges to be there. I just want the overall shadow to be there, and now I put this multiply layer off so I can just paint on a single layer and color pick, knowing that the colors that I am color picking are actually the ones that end up on the canvas, and they aren't affected by any kind of like adjustment or multiply layers on top of it. Overall, I do not recommend using multiply layers in your final paintings, almost in any form, because they change the colors towards more saturation. And when you have shadows that are more saturated than your lighter areas, like everywhere in your painting, it's just gonna be kind of confusing for everybody to look at it, because they basically have to adjust the way that they see through your like technical choices everywhere in the painting, and that's a bit trickier. That's a bit trickier just in a sense that it's harder to make people relate to your painting, because they have to do this abstract conversion in their head, that the light logic that they have learned in real life needs to be converted to how they are seeing your painting. Hi Mikko, how about the Japanese fluffy pancakes or cotton candy vendor with their shop stall set up in the clouds? Fluffy pancakes could be fun. I have done, I think, a croissant live stream. I don't know if I have done a pancake one. Remember that this idea needs to be going on for an entire art assignment segment, which is probably like about a month for us to cover all the different aspects of it. So try to have ideas that are usable for the entire month. If possible, that would be nice. Christine is saying, coffee shop sounds nice, but you have done quite a lot of that in the past yourself, so that is hyper intimidating. Yeah. I mean, art assignments aren't a competition. They are a way to kind of like frame different ways to learn art and different, maybe even challenging aspects about art. So if they sound intimidating, that probably means that I would have a lot of things to teach in said topic. So I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. Of course, the art assignments are for you guys. So whatever you find most useful at the time, then that's why I'm asking for your opinion, because I want these to be useful, really. That's the whole point of this. I don't know if I said this already, but all of these assets, the texture and the lines and the 3D model shaded version as well, they are now in the downloads. I added quite a lot of stuff this morning. cool thing about this texture is that like you can just pick out almost any color anywhere. And I recommend that if you don't like this sort of like mess of colors that this texture that I added has, you can just go into hue and saturation and find a variation that could maybe fit into what you are working with. I'm trying to work on as much on the same layer as possible because I just wanna like really quickly get to a mood and not be too fuzzy about the details. That's where I can lean in and trust this 3D frame to kind of provide me with hard edges that are perfectly in perspective whenever it seems like I have gone overboard and gone too crazy when the painting starts looking like it's hard to read. But the looseness also helps break up that look, so if the end result looks like that very simple looking 3D box, then I have failed. So this brushwork is supposed to give it that life and vibrancy that makes it interesting. I'm gonna check what this canvas resolution is really quickly. That's 86 layers, that's way too much. I'm gonna resample this canvas. To 7,000 by 5,000 pixels. Now this limit that I just created for myself is just way too small, so I am taking it out. Also, it doesn't have to be a shop, it can be whatever, so if you have any ideas, please let me know. I quite liked your previous idea of designing a painting of a fantasy airship. It would be challenging enough for us inexperienced artists, but still achievable. Yes, that was actually an idea for a Gumroad product, and I still might do it. I think the difficulty is that like I used to design all my Gumroad products so that they would be first available to all of the members first, but now non-members can see what kind of content members have. So maybe I could do it in a way that I distribute a code in the Discord channel or something. That way I could still use that sort of like old workflow for that. I hate making people kind of jump through hoops, but I also need to make enough money so I can buy bread. I'm gonna tell you something like really unglamorous about artist life. I've been recently buying this bread that they sell in the store that is like meant to be thrown away, and you get this like massive bag where you can put like any 3 products of like bakery products that they are throwing away, and that's only €5. And this isn't like some kind of like inedible, terrible bread that normal people can't eat. This is like bread from yesterday. So especially in pretty much like most of the different types of bread, if you're not buying like white bread, which is not like a very Finnish bread anyway, they are like super good and affordable. So I've been buying those, especially since I've been doing so much run training recently that I need all the carbs that I can get, and I have just upgraded my carbs into these bakery breads. They are just throwaway bakery breads, but still. Anyway, that's artist life for you. I'm not gonna spend this entire live stream talking about running, but I am going to mention that I went yesterday for a 30-kilometer run, and today I have been pretty much useless, just like recovering. I have been going on very slow walks with Vivi today because I can still feel it in my legs, but I am kind of happy how well that went, and now I'm not that scared about the longest runs that I have coming up in my program, which are 32 kilometers. And from 32 kilometers, there's only like a 10k to a full marathon. I know that I probably shouldn't say like only 10k, because after you have run 32 kilometers, 10k isn't like starting a 10k, it's a completely different feeling. But still, it just feels achievable now, which is good. I feel empowered by this whole thing. Whenever life feels like challenging, like in any way, you just have to do something that is harder, and that puts things into perspective. Like, for example, I was having these like terrible logistical difficulties with like contract stuff that was honestly just so stressful for me that I couldn't sleep or eat, and it was the only thing that I was thinking about all the time. So when I had my long runs coming up, like those were honestly just like the best moments in the last few months throughout this entire challenging period in my life, because just for 3 or 4 hours I could just focus on doing the run and not thinking about anything else. It really kept me sane when it was bad. But things are better now, so don't worry about me. But I'm still gonna keep buying the cheap bread. I am kind of a cheap person anyway. I really don't buy clothes anymore. Like I once saw this documentary just highlighting like how terrible fashion industry is, not just for the environment but for the workers, and the whole ordeal of finding like somehow ethically produced clothing. It's a lot of work. And I just don't wanna support that kind of consumerism in a field where that does so much harm to people and to the environment. I mean, sure, like my digital products, like they are not zero cost to the environment. Like I do use equipment that consumes energy while I make it, and people watch it on devices that also consume energy. But I would say that it's nowhere near the same thing as like any cheap fashion, for example. And I know based on reviews that the art course that I have on my Gumroad, that it does bring people happiness through knowledge, and it has helped people connect with art. One idea for an art assignment, and also do remember that like if one idea doesn't get chosen, that doesn't mean that we will never do it. It could just be that like this is a good idea, but we will do them in this order so that we can focus on something. Like one idea that we could also do is have an interior scene and then have all the art assignment live lesson live streams be based around that. Like we block it in, we do the framework of designing the perspective of how to do it, and then block in the colors and shadows, and then do detailed rendering. Maybe some of these things could be in the same live stream, but it is such a technical thing that it could never be done in like one single live stream like these public ones are. So therefore, I think it could be like a good fit for the membership, where I kind of don't have to worry about are people gonna show up or care about these things. Like, because on YouTube, sequential stuff never works. But in membership, where people are doing their own art projects, it's good to have like all of the technical steps in like a simple playlist and tutorial content so that you can just follow along. Sorry, is the noise from outdoors bothering you? Can you see it's like slowly starting to form into some kind of a painting? I usually like to keep repeating to myself that I don't hate it, and that's the way that I can get to loving it eventually. This is a playlist that I have chosen while I was working on the potato story. And I still have the potato painting unfinished, but the story is so good that I want to finish it. I have to say that the best thing about these art assignments, and I know that this is a very selfish thing to say, so forgive me for that, but I think the best thing about the art assignments is that I get to do them as well. That it's much easier for me to like teach something where I can like join the fun of actually making it and using that information. It's very different from like how art teaching is in a class, but I hope that it does like something good, that like at least I can feel like truly enthusiastic about the topics that I'm talking about, and when we have like educational like live lesson art streams, that I get to be excited about those as well. I hope that is worth something. Because to me that is really like, highly motivating. So, hey Henry. For those who have been doing this current art assignment or any part of it, do you have any thoughts on this abstract landscape painting segment? I know that the live streams have been like very, very different throughout this segment thus far, so I'm hoping that there's something for everybody. I know that it might be quite outside of the comfort zone for some, but I think that there's like enough tutorials now for anybody to learn the checklist method and apply that not just to like paintings that have visible objects, but even something abstract, that the same checklist method applies to everything. I have to say that I failed really badly with this live stream in like one aspect, because I had been working on this new brush in Photoshop, so it's an ABR brush, but then I brought it to Procreate, and it 100% doesn't work. Not in a way that like I can't share it, but like I can't even paint myself with it. It's just like so broken. And I was hoping that I could give you this like fun, messy brush to help you with the chaotic nature of these art assignments in this segment, but I don't know if I can make it work. At least there's a lot of work to make the Procreate version work. It's looking a bit messy. I can somewhat feel the mood, but I'm also very intimidated when I look at the watch and I see that I don't have that much time to work on this. So I'm glad that it's all on one layer, but it's also, I don't know, it's forcing me to make bigger decisions faster. So I guess it's good that it's on one layer. On the right, where I keep looking, I have pictures of Dutch boathouses, but I have to say that those references, they don't help me at all, because this looks so different already that maybe it wasn't like a relevant reference point to even start with. sometimes you have a reference and then you just notice that maybe this is not what I want after all. To me, that happens quite often. Especially in these live streams where the kind of YouTuber Mikko tries to make things work, and I just want to make sure that you guys have a live stream where it looks like I have a plan and I know where it's going, but then my creativity, and I love it for that same reason, just goes and runs off and does whatever it wants, and I love that. But at the same time, it does leave me in these sort of situations where I'm just like, how the hell am I supposed to learn how to draw cows in 4 hours? Or what are these colors when there's absolutely everything in here and the only references I have are just some like Google Street View images of like bleak, realistic gray boat houses in Holland. This is not helpful. I don't wanna run away from the impression part of this, that every part doesn't need to be completely cleaned up. I think there's a huge value in just having an impression of something, especially in this day and age when we we have access to every single type of image that you could ever need. But these sort of kind of impressions that can work like doorways, that don't kind of give all the answers, but they demand something from the viewer. I've always loved that, and I think it can create art that is a little bit more engaging. And it's not just something that, oh, that picture looks pretty. But even something that might be like annoying, that like, what is this? Like, I don't understand. And then when you do get it, then you're already there. It feels like I already like got you there by making you spend that time looking at it. But I also understand that like some people just want like clean and pretty things, and that's fine. But I'm saying that that thing already exists. I don't feel like I need to add to that noise that already is on the internet. I think there's like one color that is missing from this palette, and it's this sort of like earthy orange that is quite saturated but still could like pass off as this sort of like wooden beam, for example in a window. Just think that to make those yellows in the main roof part of this house work, I need to have a color pair that is echoing that same color but in a more muted way. And if I don't have that, then I'm just screaming with two equally saturated colors, and you usually don't get anywhere with that attitude. Here I could also pull out drawing assist and do perfect lines, but I'm gonna have enough perfect lines because of those perspective lines, and all of your perspective lines don't need to be perfect. In fact, if all of them are perfect, it can make your art look easily very boxy. And especially when using 3D planning and construction of the image, like that sort of boxy look is the kind of like #1 concern that I usually have when I am doing the painting phase. Let's see how this looks without those lines. Yep, it's getting there. Can you see it? Like all of those wobbly lines are there, but the hard edges do a lot of balancing it out. I just wanted to have like one yellow wall where I can have fun with like different brushstrokes with small hue variations to kind of give that sort of like Ghibli-like worn old building. There's like plaster, but it has weathered over time and painted over with the same color, but the different layers of paint wear off in different ways at different time, and that causes the paint to have all of this interesting life in it. I love doing that stuff, especially in a painting where I am figuring out what to do next with that painting. Whenever I'm thinking about those sort of things, like having an area like this where you can just go in and work on it, it feels like you're doing things, but like honestly I'm just thinking about the rest of the painting and my hand is kind of working on autopilot, and I love that. It's almost like knitting but with colors. So you can have this secondary action and then let your brain go on autopilot while you figure out the next steps. I'm pressing really lightly on this layer because I have all of that texture underneath, and that causes this brush to drag that paint around, and it makes every single brush stroke a little bit different because it's dragging that paint from underneath. So even though it looks full opacity, then I just do like a light brush stroke. Can you see how it's like dragging the paint? And adding that sort of vibrancy so that they're not just flat areas of color. Henry is saying, had fun cutting and pasting on the mixed media lesson. great way to lay down a cohesive base with similar textures across the whole painting. Yeah, that was a super fun live stream to do for me as well. I think it's amazing just like how close to a finished painting you can get with that. And you don't have to do the whole thing using that technique. At any point you can just go into the painting mode and finish the whole thing with as much painting as you want. It's just one way to kind of start a painting and have that texture in there. But it's amazing like how quickly you get those results once you start that way. Especially if you're stuck creatively. It's amazing to suddenly have almost a full painting in front of you, and all you need to do is just add a few brush strokes and then you're done. It's a great way to remind yourself that you're never that far away from having your next finished piece done. I think I accidentally dropped the water lily pads. Oh, damn it. Well, sometimes that just happens. I know it must be really frustrating to look at me do something dumb like that and then just not realize it at all. I'm gonna try to salvage some of this. Is it salvageable? Honestly, it would probably be the same amount of work to just like paint all of those from scratch. We have videos on teaching how to use your digital process. I think the most comprehensive guide to how to use my process is in my Angry Mikko, Best of Angry Mikko brush set. Those brushes have been done in the membership of this channel, but in that Gumroad product, Best of Angry Mikko, I show on the video how the controls for every single brush works, and I also have example paintings for all of the paintings, so you kind of like see how to use them. Because every brush has its own kind of movements and pressure capabilities, and if you don't know them, then it's really hard to kind of like try intuitively that can you find all the controls on your own. So that's why I created this one video where I go through all the process. This, I think this oil on board is the, no, it's the deep canvas one is the only one that isn't explained there. I added the deep canvas brush just recently, so it was done after the product was published, so I added it as like a free update. And deep canvas brush is more gritty and it produces a texture on the edges of that brush. So with that brush, it's better to just understand that that texture that it produces, it is part of the end product. And if that's not something that you like, then it's better to use some of the other brushes. By the way, I hope that it's obvious from the stuff that I've been posting on Instagram that all of these art pieces that I have been doing in the art assignments, you can do those traditionally as well. So the advice given in those live streams, it's not like limited to digital tools or Procreate only. You can take those same ideas and concepts and use any medium or a combination of different mediums. And if it's intimidating to go into traditional paints, I recommend giving that mixed media approach a try as well. Because you can, for example, do those 4 paintings that I did in the recent Instagram post, and you can have one square where you just experiment with different textures or brushstroke patterns, and then you can decide that, like, I will do one of these squares that will be purely just for materials for a digital painting later. And then when you get a nice, really high resolution scan out of it, you will have so much to work with that is going to give your painting that unique look. One thing that I have realized about myself that I probably knew all along, but this month in particular, it has been very clear that I'm not, even if I probably would like to be, I'm not one of those artists who can set out like a very simple palette and use the same palette every single time. Because I have been through all of those lessons when I was in art school on how to set up my palette so that I can mix colors in a clean way, and I have gone through all the physical color theory about what paints act in what way. But even still, even at school, I preferred this same method that I still use today, that I have one of those oven sheets that you put under food so that it wouldn't stick to the pan when you put it in the oven. I have just that taped to a massive board, and I have all of the paints that I'm using in my oil painting just on there, wherever there is enough empty space. And I have been doing this same stuff basically for decades, and I just never felt the need to follow one of those guys that, like, here's how to do like a limited color palette of just using 3 different color tubes or something. The way that I mix colors works really the same way that I do in digital media as well, that all the colors that I have on canvas start informing the painting what it is. And if they all exist on the same palette, they do get dirtier over time. So of course I do need to replenish the bright colors when I need those sort of like extra hits of color. But I also use that sort of like colors coming together and getting closer to each other over time. And it just makes the colors more cohesive, because it's so easy to add those sort of like pops of color later on top of everything, especially with oils, because oils is the traditional medium that I have used the most. But I think getting those sort of muted colors and mixed in between colors, for me at least, like those are what makes a painting look worth watching. And I know that that is a very different concept in a gallery, or for example the painting that I have here on my wall, than something that would work on Instagram. On Instagram you really don't need to care about the depth of colors. For example, all of this like interesting texture that I have built into these surfaces here, you won't be able to see that when the pixel size is 1300 pixels. It's all gonna be crushed into a mush. But I do this because I care about what the painting looks like when it's kind of like blown up into its original form or beyond it. One thing that a lot of these Dutch boat houses have is that they have tons and tons of plants on the sides to make them seem kind of more home-like and cozy. And I guess that they are not like sailing everywhere with these boats, but they are static for really long periods of time. But having the flowers in these sort of vases, I guess it makes it easier to carry them indoors if there's like bad weather or something. One thing that I was also interested to try with this piece is to not rely so much on value differences and let the colors be like super vibrant and let the warmth of the hues tell a big part of the story here. I will put this palette in the downloads as well. I just have that warning label there to make sure that it's not oversaturated. I have already organized the swatches in the right way, but I just want to make sure that I'm not giving anybody a palette that has sort of like full saturation colors accidentally and causing more problems. The downloads are supposed to be helpful and not something that makes art harder. My god, there's so much text. Okay, Captain, like I say, so far your palette application is looking really urban grunge, but the image itself on the houseboat is very quiet Colombian vibes. Yeah, I can see that. I'm starting to draw more landscapey things, and you seem to have a great tips and lessons. There are like tons and tons of tutorials on the membership, and also live lessons. And different materials as well. Like for example, for water surfaces, I'm not trying to do anything realistic here, but if you want to paint realistic water, there's a whole live lesson where water is one of the materials that I cover there, among other things. But there are also like fun stuff, like for example, I highly recommend doing the imagination interval sessions at some point, but I hope that we can do those live as well soon, because it's one of those things that I understand. Imagination interval training is exercise where everybody does a huge amount of paintings within 1 hour, and every painting is a different idea, and these sessions are timed with a specific timed interval, and they are just insanely rough. I mean, you will be completely mentally fried after a session. So for that reason, I understand that it's not realistic to ask anybody to do those on their own. So I do think to make them like more helpful, it is better that I just do them at the same time as everybody else. Otherwise, it could be too intimidating to do those on your own. But they are helpful. I've done them every year in concept art classes, and I can see a clear difference in the students' ideas after those. So I highly recommend that. I paint traditionally with fine liner markers and acrylics primarily. Acrylics are tricky because they don't really mix well with other mediums, because it's basically plastic. I get that with acrylics, you get what is on the bottle, like really quickly, but then when you want to develop it further, I think for that reason, acrylics is always the reason why it's not my favorite. But I also understand why some people love that medium, because it's so immediate. You kind of get immediate results. But I guess for me, coming from oil painting background, it's I'm used to waiting to get to the good part. I don't need instant gratification. I don't know what these brushstrokes are. I'm just like feel like there could be these sort of like fun colors in here. I'm colorblind, so I have to approach colors like they're a math formula. My partner lives in the Netherlands, and I really enjoy looking at the houseboats. That sounds interesting. I'm sure that it's a nice place to visit. I think Netherlands is very rainy this time of the year, I suppose, and to me that sounds super nice. I love rainy places. I love rainy places almost as much as I love foggy places. But foggy places are definitely my favorite. So Captain Laika, who is colorblind, I'm going to explain what colors are happening here. It's basically if all of the tubes of color were put into a roller coaster and they shuffled there along with a painting. Then this is pretty much what you would get after the ride is over and all of the colors have been splattered all over the canvas. For some people it might be like, huh, that's interesting. And for some people it's like, oh, that's a mess. What is Mikko thinking? Does he not know how to paint at all? I'm gonna add a lighten layer at this point. And just wash over these areas that look like they have dark spots. To just clean up the sky a little bit. This is also an excuse for me to just like add pink blotches everywhere. I don't know if they are needed, but now they are there. Now I'm adding a darken layer and grabbing some kind of a blue purple color. Let's grab this one from here and then just fill in these holes. Same thing here. I'm deep in the concentration mode. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand what the hell is happening in this part of the painting. Kind of trying to look at it from this perspective of curiosity and not just live stream horror, but there's a little bit of that live stream horror in my feelings right now, not gonna lie. But you can't go and do a live stream and say that, like, just experiment with things and then just go with the flow and then not go with the flow yourself. You do have to walk the walk. So I'm letting it unfold. I am letting go of control and then just seeing what comes out of this. Let it be said that I tried. I enjoy the Netherlands, Jirju Alex is saying, but being from Sweden, it's very flat. It's completely flat. You can literally see other faraway cities from the city you're in if you're in an apartment building. That's strange. But I'm also from a very flat land. I mean, it's funny that I sometimes notice that I say that, like, I'm doing hill training while I live in Finland, and what I consider to be a hill here probably would not be a hill to a lot of the runners out there. I think it has an interesting textured look, and I am pretty happy with that. This is a trick that I learned from Persona 3 when I played it on PlayStation 2 a bazillion years ago. Persona 3, the original one, it doesn't have great graphics, but it does do this trick very prominently, which is very often used in anime, where object edges have highlights that kind of like jut them out and define them in a way that doesn't require an outline. And I have taken this idea and used it in painting ever since. I really want to play the remake that is now on Steam of Persona, but I have already played it 2 times all the way through, and that's like 100-hour RPG, and I haven't played even Persona 5 yet, and I do have it on Steam Deck, so I probably should play that first rather than keep playing the same game. I really like the idea of having these like super saturated shadows here for these plants. Maybe this base part could be made out of wood. This thing. Like a deck. Could it be a vertical? I'm gonna do it separately on this. I'm just gonna do vertical lines. And drag the paint a little bit. Then add shadows. Okay. And now I'm just gonna duplicate this a few times. That's 1. I'm gonna use the same deck for the other side as well, so I'm duplicating this. And now it's just setting this in place. So I have so many organic lines. This is just gonna give that sharper edge. And then I'm gonna give these clipping masks to give them shadows and light. it's not that precise, it's just giving it a little bit of life, so it doesn't look as copied as it is. A simple way to cheat a little bit of extra texture. You can also use selections to paint really quickly these sort of defined edges. But just slapping in some paint that you feel like it's a good fit for whatever area. And when you press really lightly, you can utilize this painting the or dragging the paint feature more without making a mess of the entire piece. It's a quick way to do like a fake glass reflection using the same scene that you have already painted, so that you don't have to do everything from scratch. Only use this when it's absolutely necessary, and I think it's absolutely necessary every single time. checking the time. We're approaching 2 hours. I think the boat is getting there. I'm not panicking about that. I think all the important design decisions regarding the boat, they're there. What worries me is this foreground border mess. I think even the forest is pretty much there already. Like, that doesn't bother me. But what bothers me is the border, definitely. Even if it's expressive border, even if it started from a completely abstract mess, it's still looking like, girl, fix your face to me. I'm an American superhero comics artist and have been trying to teach myself to color, and your channel has been invaluable. Thank you. What music is this? You want me to check? This is from the playlist that I made for this live stream. Okay, Mikko. Get into the water. Now I'm just stalling from trying to get out of the hard part, which is doing water in this style, which I can do. I am a big boy and I can go there and do the damn water. Okay, sorry that you are all exposed to this craziness. Okay, I know that you think that these beams are important, but these beams are not important. You said that the water needs fixing and you should go down there. Okay. Ah, that is so much. Just gonna drop everything on the same layer because I don't need any of that. Guma Art Studio is saying, I recently purchased Best of Angry Mikko brush set, and it's amazing. Subtle texture in the brush strokes really is genius. Gives a different feel to the painting. Yeah, and if you have the Best of Angry Mikko, I wanna thank everybody in the Angry Mikko membership for just making that entire brush set happen. Because that's where we have developed all of those brushes with the Angry Mob. And I recommend trying this with every one of those brushes, that you tilt the stylus sideways and try that, because almost every brush has some feature that is tied into that. There's a whole video where you can watch all of the different mechanics for the different brushes. Okay. Look at me just like trying to talk myself out of working on this water like at any turn. Almost like trying to make myself do homework. And I love painting water. I don't know what it is. This is honestly something that I love. Like, notice how there is no value difference here. Yet when we zoom out, we can see that those two are different objects. I think like one of the pet peeves that I have with art teaching on YouTube, which is just... Okay, it's art teaching. I'm not gonna head this on it. But it's so simplified to the point where a lot of the people making these videos say that like value differences is the only thing that matters, when it's not. And if you look at any other medium, not all of the artists in the world like base their entire art on value differences. That's just not how it works. I'm not saying that values are not important, but you can base an entire composition on something completely other things than just value differences. And if you teach people that it's the only thing that matters, like, how long is it gonna take them to come to the conclusion that there are other options as well on their own? I mean, it's like trying to form the rest of like color and art theory and everything that art teaching has like studied and found out about how composition and eye works in a picture plane over hundreds of years, to put that on the shoulders of just like one art student, I think it's a bit much. If you just leave them with this one morsel of information that values are everything that matters to composition, it's not. This composition, for example, it's building on this area of repeated colors, and it's almost like working the eye and the gaze like a flipper, that when you see the yellow wall, then I have that yellow foliage in the top left corner, and once you go down from there, you have these pairs of like different grays and pinks working in different functions in the same picture plane. And those aren't based on value. And here, there's just a lot of this simultaneous contrast. If you look really closely, there are two colors here that are just like cool and warm versions with the same value. And that simultaneous contrast is kind of like making that color ring and giving it more depth. you don't have to have an exact plan for every single color that you are putting down. You can also trust yourself that like if you have painted enough, you can trust yourself that if it is not right, you can fix it in the process. But you shouldn't get into this paralyzed mode where you're trying to overthink every single brushstroke, and that way nothing gets done. And it's also completely okay to be sometimes just completely freaked out about painting, because art can be a lot. But that's the fun part about it, honestly. I'm just adding a lot of variation to these colors. I just want everything to be like a party. I want every part of the painting to kind of communicate the same thing, that don't take this too seriously. I'm not taking this too seriously, and you can enjoy this more if you kind of relax a little bit. If I accidentally like over render some area, then I will lose this sort of like spontaneous play of colors. That's not to say that you can't have a more finished area in a piece. In fact, in a painting like this, it actually makes sense. But you can also use that with design. You can, for example, pick one area of a painting. Like, for example, let's say that like this corner of the house that is closest to the camera, I can focus on these corners that I have here shown in lines. I can focus on those corners the most. And then as you get further away from this corner, the closest area to the camera of this boathouse, the rest of the painting can kind of disappear into this dance of colors. And that can be also one way to control the composition that is not based on contrast or values, but just sharpness. that is also a tool that you can wield to your advantage. Here, painting this in shadow, no value contrast, just contrast in sharpness. Again, no value contrast, just sharpness. One thing that I could use from these boathouse references are these tires. So in case your house floats against something, these will cushion the bump. Now that we are adding round objects, we can do them in perspective so that they don't steal the entire show. And that gives them a little bit more variety. And we can do 3 or 5, but never 2 or 4. Because of the rule of odds. Because this is not the main element of this composition, this is just a supporting detail. trying my best not to be like too fussy with this stuff. I'm gonna do the same saturated shadows, but I'm gonna do them in darken layer because I do have darker colors here as well, and they don't seem to mix that well. So I'm basically just punching this color in the holes of lightness. It's just a crazy color, but for a shadow, it seems to work. I'm gonna keep that. The water needed so little work, but I was so reluctant to do it. Really feel ashamed of that. Could have handled that a little bit better. Like a grown-up. have no idea what that one person is asking. Alright, be honest, you don't actually like the color green, right? I mean, it's in nature and stuff, but come on, man. Everyone knows blue is real artist's color. I really love green, actually, even in art. I love green as well. Now my continuity brain is screaming that you already mirrored the boat, and now you're adding more. You'll have to add to that to already mirrored. Yeah, I guess that thing got buried under there somewhere. I'm sorry. I just thought that I wanted to do something relaxing today, like as a scene, and I think this is it. This is how I relax. Don't listen to me. I'm getting very like conflicting messages. When you start from a very like chaotic color starting point, then the way to make those colors fit each other is to pick one dominant color and then you just mix that with everything else little by little, and eventually you will come into a color scheme that just fits together. But it requires a lot of trust in that process. You just gradually mix that color with everything around, and that takes quite a lot of time. And before you get there, the painting does look like a massive mess. I really like the way that the color just kind of mixes optically with these different surfaces. There's already so many different variations, and it's just very hypnotic to work on. That's why it's so difficult for me to keep talking, because I'm just like, ooh. That's what's happening in my brain. And there's just something about color harmony coming together, that to me is just so satisfying that I will never get tired of it. And it doesn't have anything to do with like how pretty or whatever the painting looks technically, but when the colors start kind of bouncing off each other and they have this interaction where you can see that your gaze starts moving with the intended way throughout the canvas, it always feels like all the work was worth it to get there. It's such a satisfying moment. And I love looking at paintings where that is happening. I love looking at areas like this. Where the colors just work. Wanted to add a little bit of that ambient light bouncing from below, as this side of the building is not getting any direct sunlight, but I have created this illusion of a strong sunlight. So even in shadow, these areas would be warmer. adding a little bit more yellow to this light that I'm adding here. It just enhances the impression of sunlight, that everything is kind of getting tinted towards that same light source. Okay, I think I'm almost done with this. I'm sorry, I know that the latter part of this live stream I've kind of fallen into this coma, but I don't know if I should apologize because that was the entire point of this painting idea. But probably not the best idea for a live stream to fall into a coma. I'm just so happy to be in this space right now. Since wind might rattle these boarding structures, I just want to add some beams. It just makes the silhouette a little bit more interesting as well, I think. Okay, I'm gonna check the chat. Sorry. Thank you, Christine. That's very kind of you. You added something lovely to the world today. Much appreciated. Thank you, Scott. And it's giving Studio Ghibli vibes, so relaxing. Do you like Ghibli art style? I like Kazuo Oga's paintings, that I can say. It looks great. time to go cook. Thanks for the stream. I'm gonna go cook some dinner for my little fox as well. I'm really happy because like she's just taking a nap here. I would show it to you, but this is a really messy room and I'm ashamed of showing how messy this workspace really is. But it's nice. She just came to see me work, which is super nice. That's the painting. I don't wanna like ruin this with details. I will fix up some of the edges based on those perspective things, but otherwise it's pretty much done already. This is it. Thank you for joining this stream, and I think whatever the art assignment is going to be in the next block, we still have 2 live lessons to go. I wanna do whatever the theme is. I wanna do like 1 public stream from that art assignment block as well. I don't know if I will plan that in, but I'm hoping that I can give a schedule for the next art assignment live streams as well. And I hope to see you guys on Wednesday when we go into the working on multiple paintings part. I'm really looking forward to that because I thought that that would be today. Okay, thank you for joining, and I hope that you also got some art done. See you in the next video. Bye. I'm always waving so that I know when I'm cutting.